The Brazilian Supreme Court has ruled in favor of two tribes in a case that is being hailed as a significant victory for indigenous land rights. The unanimous decision, which went against the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, settled the dispute over land traditionally occupied by indigenous people and ordered the authorities to respect the demarcation of land. Amid increasing conflict over land and diminishing rights for indigenous people in the country, the southwestern Brazilian state had sought compensation of about R$2 493 million from the Brazilian government after land was declared as the territory of the Nambikwara and Pareci tribes. A third case, involving Rio Grande do Sul state, was adjourned for 15 days. Brazil's indigenous people outraged as agency targeted in conservative-led cuts. Read more. This is an important step towards achieving justice for indigenous people in Brazil, said Tonico Benites, a Guarani leader. This gives us hope the judiciary will protect our rights, which are guaranteed by the Constitution and international law. Activists had feared judges would uphold the recommendation from the Attorney General's office that any tribe not occupying its ancestral land when Brazil's new constitution came into force on 5 October 1988 would lose its right to live there, a time limit that had been called the worst blow to indigenous rights since the military dictatorship ended in 1985. But Sarah Shenker, a campaigner with Survival International, said feelings were running high in Brazil against indigenous rights. If the judges apply the same thinking in the third ruling, in theory, indigenous land rights should be protected. But there is such a strong anti-indigenous campaign in Brazil at the moment that we have to be very careful. Benites said indigenous leaders would now work to overturn the 1988 cutoff date, a plan signed by President Michel Temer last month, and which critics claim is to win favor with the powerful agribusiness lobby, known as the ruralistas. The deadline would not only halt new demarcations of indigenous land but also legitimize claims by ranchers and wealthy farmers who have long coveted Indian territories. It is a very cynical move, said Juliana de Paula Batista, a lawyer working with the Socio Environmental Institute in Brasilia. Since many indigenous people were violently expelled from their ancestral land in the colonial and military eras, they could not possibly have been living on this land in 1988. Campaigners have claimed Temer is using land rights as a bargaining chip to shore up his unpopular government. Luiz Henrique Eloy Amado, a lawyer for Brazil's Association of Indigenous Peoples, APIB, said, the Temer government wants to remain at all costs, which requires the votes of the ruralista bloc.